So DJI have just released the DJI NEO for $199. This is such a versatile and unique drone, really popular, but because of that, we're already talking about the Pro version. So this drone, when I first saw it, I was like, right, this is 100% just a big copy of the Hover X1. But as I've been flying it more and more, and I've actually discovered more things that you can do with this is like the most unique drone that we've ever seen from DJI. We've never seen the ability that we could fly any of their drones with multiple controllers, been able to fly this drone in both cinematic mode, but also in FPV mode as well, using the FPV controllers. But then we can also get our phones and actually fly this directly from your phone or with no controllers at all, and just flying it, literally self-flying drone by hitting the top of these buttons. Now with all of that, it is fantastic and versatile, but it also has some challenges and it is limited as well. So I am beyond excited for the future of the DJI NEO series. I think this is a fantastic drone. I don't think it's a competitor just to the Hover X1. I think this is entirely unique, but it also brings some really exciting prospects of what we will probably see on this. So this is a love letter to my research and development friends at DJI. Please do some of these. I'm sure you might already be doing this, especially with the Hover X1 Pro Max coming out as well. Then we do need to see a new version of this. I'm sure it won't just be one drone only, but this would be what I would expect and what hopefully will improve this and make it even better. So the weight of it, 135 grams, that's 10 grams heavier than the Hover X1, so no real difference there. But when you look at it compared to, say, the DJI Avata, so it is a really similar design to this. So you could just make this like even better and have a lot of the actual controller compatibilities from the Neo into a future version of the Avata, could you? Well, I don't think so. I think this is a really good FPV drone and it should still continue to be just an FPV drone. Now, the DJI Avata 2 weighs 377 grams. I think the future of the DJI NEO, it has to be under 250 grams. Just like the mini series, why that's so popular, I think the new version of this, like a Neo Pro, should be 249 grams, keeping it under that 250 gram weight limit, which means you don't need to get certificates and licenses in majority of countries around the world. That will also have a big impact on a couple of things as well. You see, because this drone is so small and lightweight, the challenges of it are: one, the wind. So it has a level 4 wind resistance. It's not great in the wind. So on a windy day, you're not going to be able to fly this a lot. It is really challenging. Now, especially flying in FPV mode, it's not going to be great in any strong winds. And also, I've been flying this even in sports mode, and it's not been able to be powerful enough because it's so small and lightweight to get through any strong winds. Having a weight of around 249 grams, the same as the mini series, will mean not only can this actually fly faster, it can also handle winds and will be a level 5 wind resistance, which will be much better. And this will also then increase the top speed of it as well. At the moment, especially when it's tracking you, it's pretty slow. And the new Hover X1 Pro Max is going to be able to go about 26 miles an hour. Having a heavier drone, slightly larger propellers will also enable this to go faster as well. I think around about the same 26 miles per hour mark is more than good enough. And in manual mode, then you're going to be able to go faster as well. It'll just overall enhance the actual flying experience with this, while still keeping it under 250 grams. Now, the DJI NEO has no sensors on it at all for obstacle avoidance. It does have one downward position sensor for just taking off and landing, but no other sensors, which means it does crash a lot. So we can have a front sensor on here. That will certainly help a lot, especially with tracking and quick shots. You need to be really careful when flying this. Now, because it is so small and lightweight, when it does crash, and it will, it doesn't cause really much damage to whatever it's crashed into or the drone itself, but a front position sensor will certainly help. Let's talk about the camera on the DJI NEO. It's like the elephant in the room, isn't it? So it's a 1/2 inch sensor, 4K 30, 12 megapixel. It's a really tiny sensor. So this is what people's most frustration is with the DJI NEO. And for $199, when you're getting all of this, it's to be expected. So it would be great to have a better camera. I think this is what a Pro version certainly needs. If we're going to be competing with the Pro Max or the Hover X1 Pro, it needs to be. So a camera, the same camera as like the Mini 3 Pro. I'm sure you've got a few Mini 3 Pros knocking about somewhere. you can use the camera, the sensor off there. That will enable then this to be a much better camera on here for both photos and videos. Photos will then get RAW support. At the moment it's just JPEG, and in video it will also improve massively, bringing 4K 30, 4K 60 on a larger 1/1.3 inch sensor. It'll then have normal and D-Cine-like color profiles, so overall a much better camera on here. Now the Hover X1 Pro Max, yeah, I know is going to be 8K. Now it's going to be really interesting to see just what that 8K is like, what them huge file sizes are going to be like, and are you going to be actually using that 8K a lot? A lot of people make these claims about 8K, different manufacturers, and when it comes to it, is it actually worth it? Would you use 8K? Probably not. So 4K for majority of people is more than enough. And also because of that, in low light, the low light on here, it's pretty not usable. When you're flying this indoors, it's okay on like a bright day. If you've got light coming in through the windows, then that's fine. But at night time in low light, it's going to be pretty bad on the DJI NEO, if I'm being honest. So if it can have that same camera as a Mini 3 Pro, it means you're going to have an f1.7 aperture, also a larger sensor. So your low light photos and videos would be much better on a Pro version of this. Now battery life as well, considering the size of this and the size of the batteries, you get between 11 to say 15 minutes of battery life realistically, and that's going to be dependent on the weather conditions. So a Pro version, if it's going to be slightly bigger, also going to mean slightly bigger batteries as well. A 20-minute battery life would be fantastic. So realistically, like 17 to 20 minutes, that would be a much better improvement while still keeping this small form factor. And in terms of controllers, I think it 100% has to keep the same controller support. This is what I think is the biggest advantage to this. You could fly this in so many different ways, whether it's just flying it completely hands-free just by pressing the buttons on here, flying it with your phone with the DJI Flare, which I absolutely love doing. It's probably the one I'm actually using the most. I can just take this anywhere with me and just use a DJI Fly without the need for any cables or anything and just fly this. I think it's great. But also then being able to fly it with your RC2 controller, like using it cinematically, and also then using the FPV modes. I think any Pro version has to keep that. It's such a huge advantage. The Hover Pro Max, it's going to have like a little controller. That's, I imagine, is just going to be for cinematic flying. And I'm not sure what that experience is going to be like. You do have to use like a phone with it. So it's nowhere near going to be as good as using a dedicated controller like this. So 100% that controller support has to stay on any future versions of the Neo. And also if we're getting a slightly larger version of this in a Pro version, having an SD card slot certainly needs to happen. It is good having internal storage of 22 gigabytes in case you forget your memory card, but also if you're going to be flying this a lot, that storage will fill up really fast. So being able to just stick in like a 128 gigabyte SD card here is much better than just having internal storage. So overall, I think that's actually quite a realistic-ish list. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below what you would actually like to see on any future versions of the DJI NEO. I think this is a genius product from DJI, to be honest. It's not just a replacement to the Hover X1. I think it's a drone in its own like lane category that can improve. So we will probably see each year different versions coming out, getting slightly better. So I'm not expecting all of that list, but I'm also not expecting this to be like a DJI Air 3 in a tiny drone either. You know, these are realistic requests, things that can make this better than it already is. Now, it stands $199 for this drone, being able to fly this with loads of controllers, having a decent enough camera to use on social media, having internal storage, and it's just so fun to actually fly this. And if you actually do crash it, you can get DJI Care Refresh to send you a new one. It's going to be good for any family members who want to start flying a drone. It's $199. Get a few more batteries, get the Fly More combo, and then you're set. But if you want more, if you want a better camera, a bit better battery life, a bit more of a better flying experience in the wind, then a Pro version of this will be great. And if you can do a lot of those requests, it's the end of the Hover Pro Max before it's even got out of the gate. You know, let them release their drone, bring yours out. Goodbye, Hover. So let me know what you think. If you like this video, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new around here because we've got so many more videos coming really soon. Let me know what you want to see on future versions of this because DJI, they will see that list. See you on the next one.